couple people just coming into the parking lot. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Allison Page, and I'll be presiding this morning. I'm excited about our presenter, and we will get started as soon as these people hit the doorway, maybe. It's a beautiful morning, isn't it? Yeah, kind of pretty. Icy, though, especially in our parking lot. All right. I'm going to try this, Jonathan, being over here. So we'd like to make sure, so if you're, when we're doing conversation later, if you're going to speak, raise your hand, and Callan and, I keep forgetting, Aiden. And Aiden will run around with the microphone, because there are a lot of people who actually watch this online, live. And so we like to make sure that they can hear everything, and we record it. Some people like to watch it later. So if you, we want to make sure everyone's comments are heard. We'll capture them on the microphone. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. Welcome. This is our order for those of you who haven't been here before. Our order of service is, first we light the chalice. We have some opening words. We have a section where we, good morning, come on in, where we greet one another. We share our joys and concerns, and then our speaker, Sarah O'Neill, will share her talk with us, have announcements and closing words. So the chalice lighting, Callan, you're back. All right, our fire starter here. Our symbol of the chalice represents the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. Thank you, Callan. Our theme for the month, for those of you who are regular attendees, know that every month we have a theme. The theme for January, the UUA national theme, is practicing resistance. And you can see the different principles that UU abides by: transformation, equity, pluralism, interdependence, justice, and generosity. The meaning of those is here, and I like to highlight which principles are really coming through in our theme for the month. And that would be justice. We work to be diverse. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all feel welcome and can thrive, as well as equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. And how true that is right now. Opening words for today. This is a picture that I actually took at the march, the Women's March in Washington, D.C. I love this poster. We rise, we resist, we march. It was very appropriate. Our opening words. Our resistance is not predicated on how likely it will be to alter the conscience of the oppressor. We resist to retain our own conscience and to awaken all others who are still in possession of their own souls. Now we take a moment and hop up and greet each other. Introduce yourself to people that you may not know, and we'll take a few minutes to do that. Jen. You know Jennifer Nelson? I know that name. So she's indivisible because she's my sister. She said, "Come on, she's your sister." People were trying to vet. I wonder if she's someone that shape, because I told her about 3.4. She might have like looked at my paper and get me to the she's supposed to be on. Because I said she wanted to be on. Just text her. Oh, that's fine. We'll connect. I can stay. Yeah. She's, we'll see. Next week I'm talking about what's her name? This work, so I'm in school. And there's certain days in the calendar that schools recognize. So I'm giving a talk about it next week, which is fascinating. And that was a fascinating story. So, by the Nazis. She's the first like U.S. citizen to be crazy. So, all right, let's get going. I know we could talk all afternoon here. Thank you so much. Now it's time to share our joys and concerns, and it's our tradition that people come up, use the red microphone, drop a rock in the water, and share whatever joy or concern is on your mind today. Have any takers? Don't be shy, Callan. I know you. Speak right into the mic.
All right, so I think it was just yesterday. I got a new game called Hightail, and I really like it.
All right. Definite joy.
Well, I have a couple, but since you led off with that, I've also started a game called Raft. Going across the ocean with sharks around you trying to survive. So it's a very fun game if you ever want to try it. Just a couple things. One is I've had knee surgery this last July, and was able to go rock climbing yesterday, and my knee feels good today. So that's a joy. And then my concern is, you don't know, I work for St. Paul Public Works. We have 450 plus employees, many of people of color. We had one detained and taken away. We had one completely surrounded in a terroristic way by ICE and intimidated, but they didn't detain him because he had proper papers. And we have someone directly that reports to me as extended family member got detained. So for 450 plus employees, it's not horrible. But just the fact that people got to live in terror is horrible. And as a leader, I am now volunteering my time after work to do errands and do what I can to assist, being a white male person of privilege. So my heart goes out to those being terrorized right now. It's not supported by many of us, and I won't get into further detail on my other feelings, but we'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Steve. All right. Welcome, Anna. Welcome. That's okay. Do you need a little help? Okay.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and one of my concerns is that I think all of us have love and compassion and humanity in our hearts, but in our world, sometimes we're not allowed to speak of it. So like even at book club, someone brought up that we can't bring up politics, but I said I think we should be able to talk about what we're seeing and how we feel about it. And so you can't just be a friend with somebody without being able to talk about your heart. And then I just go to them and I'd say, you know, if you're Christian, what would Jesus do? And so they don't really have anything to say about that with our lack of humanity in our country right now. So that's a concern of mine. But I am going to keep speaking my truth in a kind way and non-offensive way, but strong.
Thank you. Thank you. Other joys and concerns?
So I guess I'll continue the whole thing with, so I teach refugee and immigrant students English, that's my job, and watching as, I guess it's a concern in the fact everything they're going through, but the joy is in how a lot of these kids are continuing to push through, coming to school even when they're scared, and just like the dedication these little children are showing, like the strength and the support for their families. So even when their parents are like, you shouldn't go to school, I've got seniors coming because they want to graduate and they want this and they want that. And so I'm very proud of how much they are putting in, even though they're all terrified. So
Yeah. And stressful times for you. Little bit. Thank you.
We have a person who's been watching our services over at Comforts of Home, and we're looking forward to being able to transport her here, but her health hasn't allowed it for a while. But anyway, Lisa, we are sending you good wishes to you and yours.
Oh, thank you.
And my niece is a nurse at Twin Cities Hospital. She's in the NICU, and she said that there's a baby there that its parents can't be with it because they're afraid.
Oh.
In my country.
Other joys and concerns? All right. Lily.
So this one's kind of been recent. So in group chats and stuff, I've been kind of talking with my friends about the whole ICE things, and some people are always saying like, we're too young to like talk about this, and it kind of upsets me because like it's happening, right? We should be talking more about it and stuff, because one of the reasons to counter it, I was saying it's just like 9/11. It's just like these terrorists and stuff. And you know what they did? You know what they did when 9/11 happened? I heard this story from my dad. They rolled in the cart to watch what was happening. I mean, we're not watching what is happening, but we know it's happening. So we should be talking about it and not being so afraid that we're saying something.
All right. Thanks, Lily. Other joys and concerns? Oh, come on. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful world. And our grandsons came up for pancakes this morning, and of course wanted carrots. And the 3-year-old remarked as I was peeling his, carrots are very sharp.
Carrots are very sharp. Cute. Any other joys or concerns? Okay, if not, I'll put the big rock in for all the joys and concerns that go unspoken. Okay, I would say it is a real treat for us today to have as our guest for the day Sarah O'Neill. Sarah comes to us from Hudson, and she's got a fascinating story of her journey in resistance and about Project 3.5, which maybe you've heard of, but maybe don't fully understand. I'm going to let Sarah, you're going to tell a little bit about yourself in this, and so take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sarah. I'm a community organizer in Hudson. A little crispy. It's been an intense 4 weeks, so bear with me. I was so delighted to be invited to speak to you today about practicing resistance and sharing my resistance story, because I am hearing from so many people who feel powerless in this moment. And when I have those conversations, my answer to them is always the same: to engage in community organizing. Because when you are plugged into this work, you have an opportunity to create a real meaningful impact. You have control over the outcome, and it is so uplifting to see all of the work that might be hidden to everyone else. But when you're plugged in, it's overwhelming the good work that is happening in our community right now. And I would say that I am more optimistic about our future than I have been in a very long time, seeing the work that is happening, because we are renewing those social connections and building this really strong foundation from which we're going to be able to build something that's more just and equitable. Of course, you can't talk about resistance without talking about Dr. King. Tomorrow is MLK Day, and as we all understand, Dr. King was a powerful speaker, and he had a resonant message and inspired so many people to come together in the civil rights movement and to build solidarity. But what is maybe not always so clear in our high school education is that he was empowered to become this leader because of all of the incredible work that was happening on the ground in communities by people just like us, regular people doing excellent organizing work in their communities. And the Montgomery bus boycott offers a really important lesson, because I recall being told Rosa Parks sat down on that bus and refused to give up her seat. And then something sprung up out of that event. And that is not the case. There were thousands of organizers that were, devising strategies and identifying the just right face for that boycott. And so there were organizing meetings happening in churches and women's groups and the NAACP, where Rosa was secretary, and they saw in her the face of the boycott. And then when there were restrictions placed on taxi drivers, those same organizers coordinated carpools to keep people off those buses and create economic pressure on the mayor and other leaders, kind of pushing on those pillars of support that enabled them to defect. Today, in some ways, resistance looks very much the same. At its heart, it's about building trusted relationships with the people in your community. And we are seeing this I've never seen communities come together like I am seeing right now, with Ice Watch patrols watching out for mutual aid networks so that they can deliver food, take people to medical appointments, showing up with their whistles and their horns in the face of ICE agents who are heavily armed, and they're standing up for their values. It's incredibly inspiring. But we face a lot of different threats than we did in the 50s. We have a 24-hour news cycle, social media channels, and we are inundated with devastating news, and these channels keep us distracted, immobilized, and they are being used to amplify misinformation and disinformation that threatens the movement, fracturing of the movement, and that they are also stoking fear and violence. What's more, we are now facing exceptionally sophisticated surveillance systems and technologies. Wired just reported last week that ICE is using a technology called WebLock that is harvesting data from our mobile apps to track and detain immigrants and protesters. And their argument is that because you freely shared your data with these apps, it is no longer private. They also have massive social media teams, and they are using AI to pour through our social media content to identify protesters for prosecution. And so we need to be incredibly careful in this moment about locking down our privacy and our security and being very mindful about the content that we share on social media, because it has the potential to create real harm. And in fact, there was a raid in Minneapolis not too long ago, and someone after the fact posted a photo of rapid responders turning out for the raid. And one of the protesters had hurled a plastic water bottle at ICE agents. They found that photo and they prosecuted him for assault of a federal officer. Like many, I was engaged, I was doing work in the community, but it was 2016 when I became really highly activated. I knew I needed to do more, and I work for a digital agency, and I saw in my community there was a real need for some more sophisticated digital infrastructure. And so that's how I originally got plugged in to doing local political organizing. Right here, that was the evening of election night in 2024. Because I took a picture at that stop after canvassing the final shift on election night in Warren. It was very dark, it is very red out there, pretty scary place to be. And I had a lot of incredible conversations with people who felt so incredibly alone, because I'm fortunate I live in that progressive downtown Hudson bubble. It feels very safe there. But for the people in Warren, they were just so desperately concerned. But I, at that moment, felt really hopeful. I took that photo to remind myself of that hope. And then I got home and was met with devastating news. And I know so many of us woke up that next morning when it was confirmed and just sat in the most profound grief. And that day, someone shared this Rebecca Solnit quote with me. I'll read it. The fact that we cannot save everything does not mean we cannot save anything. And everything we can save is worth saving. And I sat with that for a while, repeated it to myself a lot, and it helped me focus from the grief I was feeling and that profound sense of loss to the things I might actually be able to do. And then a friend shared with me an Instagram reel of a therapist who had introduced the concepts of sphere of influence and sphere of concern. And these were new concepts to me. The sphere of concern represents everything that we're concerned about: climate change, the war in Ukraine, starving children in Gaza, things we care about, but that we can't influence. The sphere of influence, however, are those things that we can have a real impact on. For example, organizing rideshare in Hudson, protecting the Kinney, delivering food to our immigrant neighbors. The regime is inundating us with this flood the zone strategy in an attempt to keep us kind of spinning out in the sphere of concern, when what we need to do is focus on that tiny dot in the middle, that sphere of influence, because that is how we turn this thing around, is acting locally. A couple weeks after Election Day, I stumbled through a Blue Sky post by a rabbi that I follow, the 3.5% principle. Is anyone here familiar with that? Excellent. So this is Erica Chenoweth. She is a researcher at Harvard University, and she had done a historical analysis of nations that had been able to overturn unjust regimes. And her findings were that when those nations were able to secure 3.5% of meaningful engagement from the community, they were 100% successful in overturning that regime. And I sat with that for a bit. I pulled out my calculator and plugged in the 3.5% of Hudson's population, and to me that felt doable, and it was incredibly energizing to know that that was something realistic that potentially we could impact. Of course, that comes with some caveats, because I've seen on social media people thinking that all we need is 3.5% of the population to show up at a mass protest, and that's the trick. It's far more nuanced than that. And she identifies 4 key factors: that there is a large and diverse population of participants in that movement, that it is sustained, and that it is growing in size and diversity. She also talks about the ability of that movement to act against those pillars of support and drive defections. And you've probably heard of those first 2 quite a bit. They're discussed a lot. These last 2, she shares, are vitally important and often overlooked. That those actions are creative and varied. We know that mass protest is going to become increasingly dangerous over time, and we need to find unique ways of throwing, sand in the gears of fascism. And we also need strategies for holding the movement together, and this is especially important now, given all of the social media and news channels spreading misinformation. Because Erica herself has said her research was based on events before we had these kinds of technologies. And so today we don't know what kind of impact this will have. But we do know organizing face-to-face with people and building trust is key. And so I felt incredibly energized after reading that, like the first real ray of hope after the election. And I poured myself into developing a community organizing strategy, because in my political work, I saw a real need for connection. Because so much has been lost as we've lost our third spaces, and even more so after the pandemic, when we became increasingly isolated. I don't know about you, I sometimes still forget to go outside. And so we needed a way to bring people together. And I saw so many people who I knew wouldn't organize for a political party, who were new to activism, but wanted a way to act on something that they cared about. And so I went to an election debrief where people were kind of brainstorming how we were going to respond. And I shared this idea with the team, and a gentleman afterwards came up to me and said he was really excited about it. Sarah, how are you going to do it? And I hope this is something that resonates with you, because I had no idea how I was going to do that. But the fact is, all that we need to do is to begin. And so I thought about, what are my skills and who do I know? And so I met with a couple of friends who were engaged in community organizing and political work. And we launched this website and began this project out of a friend's garage. And the intent was to bring people in who wanted to do good work and just weren't sure where to start. And so the intent was for this to be kind of an entry point for people to begin their activism and to empower them to do that work. And then when they were ready to kind of advance their activism, to be able to direct them to other organizations like GROW. In those early conversations, we talked a lot about sphere of concern, sphere of influence, our values, and our why. And these people are my why. When I was little, my parents sponsored the first Cambodian family to immigrate to Minnesota. And the Uns are the most joyful, kind, hardworking people I have ever known, and they escaped the most unimaginable violence. They saw their neighbors pulled out of their homes and shot in the street. Chamrat, who was the oldest son, was shot and left for dead in a river, and he survived. Chai, the father, was a civil engineer, and he was dragged to a work camp, which he escaped found his way back to the village that had been bombed, and most of his family had survived, and they escaped through the jungle to safety. And so when I hear stories of attacks on immigrants, it's so deeply personal to me, because I know so many are coming to this country under dangerous circumstances because of this deep love they have for their families. And so in those early conversations, so many of us were concerned about the anti-immigrant rhetoric. We knew we needed to be working to create safety. And so we did a survey of the resources that were already available in our community and identified gaps, one of which was rapid response. And so in May, I attended a Monarca training in Minneapolis, where they train people on legal observing and how to capture evidence that can be used to protect immigrants and hold ICE accountable. And I spoke to one of the organizers afterward, because we had reached out to Milwaukee and Madison, and no one had the capacity to support us here in western Wisconsin, which is often the case. We're in this kind of black zone. And they had the staffing, they needed to migrate to new technology to support us, but they did. And so I started organizing to find places where we could host these trainings. And in fact, the very first one was here in July. Thank you, Allison. And we had 85 people show up. And I will tell you, the organizers at Monarca were blown away, and they have been, by every training we've hosted in western Wisconsin, because people don't just file out. They've been stunned by the fact that people stay afterward, and they're creating community and having conversations, and they've just been astonished by what they're seeing here. At the same time, our group was also developing SAVE Act teach-in. And this is something that we built in collaboration with the League of Women Voters. And I don't really deeply understand election law, but I had a friend who did, who was an attorney and an election judge. So I asked her, I've got this idea. What do you think? Would you be willing to help? And then other people in our Project 3.5 group helped with the logistics, and someone made a connection to the League of Women Voters, and we built this really incredible team. And this was so well received, it's now been presented 5 other times in western Wisconsin. And we now have a template to provide these trainings in advance of future elections to educate our communities on ballot measures. This is our most recent project. When Metro Surge was announced, Monarca was absolutely overwhelmed, and their rapid response system could not support the kind of need that they were seeing. And so they urged communities to organize at the very hyperlocal level to deliver a legal, nonviolent response to ICE action in our communities. And so we now have 7 communities coordinating here in western Wisconsin. We have rapid responders, people on community patrol, people sitting in parking lots keeping watch. When we have people who need to take vulnerable people to a medical appointment, to work, we have people who are giving them rides, but they're checking in with a community patrol so that we can do a sweep of the neighborhood to make sure that it's safe before they make those deliveries. All of this has been built up in 3.5 weeks. And it is remarkable. We now have people who are organizing habeas petitions. We have people who are reaching out to communities to fill out DOPA paperwork. It's incredible. Can you say a little bit about what that is? Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes you get lost in it because you're so plugged in. The DOPA paperwork, and I forget what the acronym is, but it essentially allows immigrant parents to assign legal guardianship to another member of the community in case they are detained. And then the habeas petitions, we know when people are being picked up that ICE is trying to move them out of the Whipple building, is where most are being held. Move them out of Whipple within 2 to 3 days, because once they're out of that jurisdiction, it makes it much harder to recover them. So it's really critical that we're getting these habeas petitions filed as soon as possible. And so we're building out that network of attorneys, notaries, translators to make all of that happen. So I'm sometimes asked by people, what is it going to take to change course? And the simple fact is no one knows. But that's also a little freeing, because it allows us an opportunity to be creative and to work on things that we're passionate about. And it all begins with identifying our skills, our talents, our gifts, and our whys. And so I have been talking plenty, so I wanted to take a moment and think about what your why is, and then turn to someone next to you, hopefully someone you don't know, but this is a small community, so you probably already know each other, and share your why with each other. Okay. Okay, is anyone, hello, I'm not a teacher, so I don't have those skills. Tap your head, touch your nose. All right, everyone, thank you. Love the conversation, this is wonderful. Where the microphone, are you a microphone? Excellent. Would anyone be willing to share your why with the rest of the congregation? Hold on one moment.
This. Well, I was just going to say I've been interested in doing this kind of thing or being out there and saying my piece because I had an extremely honest dad who said he never tried to couch his words. I mean, he was just right that who he was. Anyway, and then in our Unitarian church in Flint, we sponsored Vietnamese, and then the next bunch of people, and we got to know them better because my husband worked at prepping their places they were going to live, and then he would fix things for them after they'd been here a while. And my son got to know those people too, and there was huge families of people. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? There must be one more. Oh, right behind you.
Hi, my name's Olivia. This is my first time here, but I know this family, so and I've been wanting to come for a while, but I'm a new mom. My son's 4 months tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But for me, my why is that I don't want my son to grow up in a world where he thinks this is normal, or that years from now, when all of this is past, he's going to look and he's going to be like, why didn't you do something?
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest concerns now, is that, like, I'm not that I feel like my son will judge me, but, like, I don't want to sit and think that I did nothing when this happened. So that's kind of my why.
Yeah. Exactly. I feel the very same way. I am exhausted, but I think about that very same thing all of the time. And so you push through, because I'm not going to allow my kids to grow up in this kind of environment. It's unacceptable. All right. Oh, yes, Steve. Thank you.
So I've thought about this a lot, like
Okay.
watching lots of documentaries and civil rights and kinds of things. So it all comes down to this for me, is that you are how you treat the most vulnerable. And it's really a moral and ethical standard of not only society, but friends, who those are around me. And I think that's generally what I watch for and what drives me.
Yep. Agreed. Thank you for sharing. Oh, one more.
The dark force of the regime is selling fear. Are you buying? Fear is what interferes with if they can control us with fear, that is their aim. Love and faith in your heart and your heartfelt energy helps us to overcome that fear and will help us to be victorious finally.
Totally agree. Thank you for sharing. All right. I also have people come to me and they don't know how they can help. And I always serve myself up as an example, because I am not a professional organizer. I'm just a person who has a few skills and some community connections. And it's really just about identifying what you care about and then bringing your skills to bear. And so if we could, again, take a few moments and share with your neighbors what gifts you can bring to the resistance movement. For some, it might be some unique subject matter expertise. For others, it's some sort of technical skills. It might be time. They all can create real impact in this movement. So why don't we take another 3 or 4 minutes and chat amongst yourselves. I don't operate mics. I don't know how to turn it on. Yeah, yeah.
So we don't have any theology at all, and anybody's theology is welcome. Everybody is a person. Everybody is a person. You make anybody less than anybody else. We did reach out a couple who were banners
Oh, really? Which one?
the second one from the right.
Oh, that's great.
And then Jen Stevenson did the photography along the back wall and also in the kitchen. He was the executive for 35 years. And he got some bad designer. He just and then the flags of all religions. Religion can be a supportive of legitimate when you look at it as
Which is, I'm interested in religion, and it's just such a shame that people can blame religion. It's really at its core. It's about I better probably wrap it up soon. Thank you. Okay. You want to stand up with the microphone? So, is anyone willing to share the gifts that they have that they could bring to this resistance movement? Stephen. Oh, Steve, right there.
So through decades, I've learned that one of my strengths is to bring people together to brainstorm and have transformational solutions for things. So that's just something I've always done, to the point where I can be in meetings and I have to hold back because people walk out of those meetings saying, like, we were thinking too much, and which I always think is a good thing. So like for our group, which is a large group of 450 plus workers in St. Paul that are making normal happen in very unnormal times. We had a huge leadership meeting, but it was actually the whole group. Anyone who wanted to transparently attend this meeting on Teams could do so. And so it was literally like 280 people were at this meeting. And I was being an observer at first before I said anything, and what was not happening was this transformational thinking. So then I engaged and gave some ideas, but also asked others, especially those being affected, what works for you? Like, okay, can we help you work remotely so you feel safe? Can we start a fundraiser for those that are being impacted because they have attorney's fees? Can we volunteer our sick and vacation time in order to help them take time off for their family if they've been affected by ICE? Just go on and on and on. How can we, if your workspace isn't safe, can we find somewhere else for you to work for the time being until things get better? Yeah. So it was just constant brainstorming of what will stick, and what can we think about. And that was, and I got a lot of feedback from many people, especially people of color, that thanked me for engaging and starting that conversation.
Yep, there's a real need for that. Thank you. Anyone else? No takers? Oh, there we go.
Well, I'm running for office.
Wonderful.
Supervisor, District 8 for Pierce County.
Oh, wonderful. You are needed. Okay. Anyone else?
I'll just say personally, like to hear people's strengths and what they can bring to the table.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think it helps us as a group to understand what's out there.
Yep.
Anyone that could share or feel that they
Mm-hmm.
can share that we want.
Oh, right behind you. Thank you.
So, we're real estate investors and we have rental properties that we're trying to make available to the folks that need them right now. So,
Wow.
just going to put that out there.
We need to talk.
Yeah. Let's.
That's incredible. Anyone else? Don't be shy.
I'm a teacher. Well, I retired, and I taught leadership with FFA.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really think that we need some sort of a platform for our children to be able to talk, these youth here, and share their feelings, but also in the spirit of Martin Luther King, to listen and know positive ways to interact with others and then feel that their voices are heard and be in solidarity. So, like, I went to hear Will Steger speak, and then I see the Obama leadership platform. And, there's people that are bigger than us, but I just think there needs to be something that's like one platform that's being taught, like how to interact with other people and how to be a good leader and how to not be violent and not to take offensive, take things personally, just a platform that we can give our children, our next leaders. Anyway, I would just love to see and be part of something like that.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is modeling civility in all our venues with your elected officials. I'm on the River Falls School Board, and so we actually have a course at the high school that is getting at this kind of thing. It's a new course at the River Falls High School, which is really fabulous. But then, as Wendy said, running for office yourself, I'm a candidate for mayor in River Falls this year, and then getting into those positions and modeling the civility that we want to see in our future. And I would just say, I think my gift that I bring to the table is maybe bringing people together, and just bringing people together and building community in a place such as this. I know you guys have other strengths out there. Aiden, what's your strength?
Sure, mathematics would probably work, but I also have a bunch of technical skills to work with. So.
Wait, what was that?
I have a bunch of technical skills to work with. I do stuff with computers.
Oh, we need you. No, there's a big need for that.
My name is Dee. I guess I could, I've been kind of contributing in the background to a lot of causes. I am a software engineer and an infrastructure architect. I've done projects for Thorn, building applications for exploited women and children. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, I joined a couple groups and helped them get their websites up. So just whatever is out there, I'm not, I guess, with the way that I was brought up and what I've gone through in my life, I don't stand in the front lines as a face. I work in the background, and that's where I prefer to be.
And there's a real need for that. And I think sometimes it's easy for people to feel like they don't, for many very legitimate reasons, don't feel comfortable being on the front lines. But there is such a need for people to be doing things behind the scenes. We have people who run dispatch for our rapid response network and community patrols. That's just from home. I was having difficulties with vetting our volunteers because we moved to Proton for security, and those spreadsheets are so clunky and slow and would freeze if I hit 100 rows. And so there was someone who volunteered to build us a secure database. I mean, there are real needs that you might not immediately think of it when you're watching what's playing out in the news, that we need, especially with this, what we call the Western Alliance, these kind of 6-7 communities in western Wisconsin that are coordinating community patrols and rapid response. Yep, yes. All right, anyone else? Okay, all right, I wanted to leave you with this Audre Lorde quote that I stumbled into shortly after the election. And so it's actually a really beautiful remark that you made, Bob, because that is exactly, the way that I feel. It's, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. And I have found that courage comes from centering your values and the positive vision you have for the future. And then you just begin the work. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Just really, really interesting. And there'll be plenty of time to stay and chat afterwards if you'd like. Okay, to be a Unitarian Universalist, we know that to be a Unitarian UU means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. Our announcements, next week we'll be continuing the conversation about resistance with some background and education on a woman named Mildred Fish Harnack. She's a Wisconsinite of note that we should all learn about. So I'll be doing that. And then the following week, how many of you have heard of Blue Zones? Did we talk about that? I used to work for Dan. Get out of here. You might have to come. Get out of here. You should do this talk, Sarah. Okay. Well, we're going to do, in the beginning of February, what's the theme for February? Resistance, and then, resilience. February is resilience, building community resilience, and something called Blue Zones. Blue Zones is coming to a neighborhood near us. There's going to be a Blue Zones assessment. I won't steal the conversation for February, but we'll be talking about Blue Zones, what it is, and why it really is so connected to resilience. Then February 8th, Shinko Rick Sloan. Many people of this organization really appreciate his messaging. He'll be talking about something related to resilience. February 15th, we'll be having Watersheds of the St. Croix Valley with Grace Caggio will be the guest speaker. And then February 22nd will be a real treat. Prescott Berg, who many of you know, is a member of this organization. He and his wife have traveled in Vietnam. And he said he was just amazed by the level of resilience that the people of Vietnam have shown in rebuilding their communities. So really, really impressive. So he's going to be telling that story, which should be very, very interesting. Okay, as always, we appreciate any support you want to offer the organization. We do put a basket out for donations, but we realize that everybody gives in different ways and what they can, and everything is appreciated. Then there are coffee and treats we have other announcements, I won't forget. We have coffee and treats in the kitchen afterwards, and Callan and Aiden have taste tested them all to make sure they're safe. They always do a pre-test for us before the gathering. But Callan has. And okay, so other announcements. I know Bob has one.
Thank you, Allison. Two announcements. First of all, the poetry meeting after service will be canceled due to the weather conditions. Second, Kate Ihus and Nancy Miller and I have a meeting Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock for a spiritual seekers group. We're looking for spiritual growth and spiritual support for dealing with the chaos and the shift that our culture is going through. But we'd like to make this meeting available to people who are out there working for a living. So if you want to would like to join our group and meet at a different time, say Saturday morning, afternoon, some evening, please let us know. Talk to Kate or Nancy or me. Thank you.
All right. Okay, any other announcements? Any other announcements? You'll notice there's some paint chips on the wall back here. We're looking at just cleaning up, refurbishing this auditorium. And so I put some paint chips up here. If people have any opinions on them, please share. And we'll be testing out on that back wall some different color options. If you look up at the ceiling, as lovely as this auditorium is, it's in need of refreshing. So any opinions, please feel free to enter your thoughts. Any other announcements? If not, enjoy the coffee and treats. And again, thank you so much, Sarah. That was really, really fascinating to hear your personal story and the background of 3.5. And 3.5 is kind of local, right, to the region. This is a very based on research that was done. This is kind of very local. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Sarah. Let's give you a hand. All right. Enjoy the day. Oh, Joy. Excuse me. Okay. You'd think I was new at this, right? Okay. Now we get into our closing words. For those of you who haven't been here before, we form a very large circle and we share our closing words before we have cookies.